Welcome to another episode of The Gist. Because when it comes to life, love, and the pursuit of happiness, sometimes we just need a moment to get our shit together. That's all we need. We just need a minute, just 60 seconds. just you know, sometimes we need just a minute to get ourselves together. I'm your host, Kay Bellamy, and I got my co-host here, Valerie. Stephanie's going to join us in a little bit. And tonight, so Val asked me, let me just take a minute to tell you kind of where I am, because, you'll see these album covers behind me and, you got Marvin Gaye and Earth, Wind and Fire and, all sorts of OJs. So one of my clients is Rec Philly. And if you don't know Rec Philly, I am sitting in one of the studios at Rec Philly, and Rec Philly is basically for creators. If you are an artist, if you are a dancer, if you are a musician, if you are a blogger, if you are a podcaster, if you are a speaker, if you are any of those things, Rec Philly is the place you want to be. It's all studios in here. So people come here to record their albums, record music. They come here if they're a dancer, there's photography here, there's videography here, there's all sorts of stuff here. So I'm just sitting in one of their rooms, which is a cool space. And it's very Philly, it's hence Rec Philly. So there's a lot of nostalgia here, I would have to say. So I know. I love this place. It is a great, great place. So that's where I'm sitting, and that's what you see behind me. So, but anyway, tonight we are talking about the hottest topic that's going on right now, which is the mental health of athletes. And, we've been hearing all the stories between Simone Biles, Sha'Carri Richardson, Naomi Osaka. Like these athletes are really struggling mentally. And so one of the things is that me?
Nope.
So I'm trying to figure out, were you just going to ignore it?
I was
Okay.
just gonna act like it wasn't happening. But I also knew that wasn't going to work, because I knew you were going to say something. I was just kind of hoping it would stop. Like in all the podcasts we've done, that has never happened. I'm like, are you kidding me?
So I'm looking at your face, and your face is saying, I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to pretend like I don't hear it. I'm not going to say anything. Okay. So anyway, back to the conversation. A lot of athletes today, and I think the light is being shown on the mental health of a lot of athletes, because we've watched a lot of Olympics, and not ever have I seen as much attention paid to the mental health of athletes than I have now. So, I want to talk about what has changed. Why is that happening now? Because I know we live in a different time, and everything is exposed now. Everything is put out there, put out front for us to know. But it makes you wonder how many athletes prior to the ones today have suffered, and the organization actually offer services for these athletes, or are they just performance monkeys? Is that what's happening here? So that's our conversation tonight. And, Val, I'm going to let you kick it off. It's
Sure.
What's happening? I mean, what has changed? We hear the stories. What has changed?
So, thinking about this topic, there are so many different directions I can go in. I mean, first of all, when you just think about the fact that we're in the 21st century, and that you've still got, these professional organizations that are not acknowledging mental health, because mental health is part of your health. But I think in terms of athletes, let me just back up a minute. Because again, I told you, I was like doing some research. So National Institutes of Mental Health estimates that 1 in 5 U.S. adults suffer from some form of mental illness. And mental illness is anything from mild anxiety, which means nobody knows you have it unless you tell them, to the bipolar schizophrenic with, homicidal tendencies. So with that, I mean, that means that any one of us as an individual, at least 20% of the people we know are suffering from some sort of form of mental illness. Now, I do think, as we've, kind of moved into the 21st century, you do see a little more of a spotlight on it, but it still lets you know just how much they're still not seeing it. I mean, you're starting now to have athletes. You think about Michael Phelps, who came out, and talked about his own mental health struggles.
Absolutely.
And I still see stories about his mental health struggles. And I know he, is endorses one of the mental health apps or something. And all the athletes that we're talking about, like Simone Biles, and there's other athletes in like the NFL who are now coming out and talking about those struggles. So these mental health issues, they aren't specific to the sports themselves, but it's just in general, like mental health is a real issue. And I think that what's changed is that you're starting to have people who are, I guess, for lack of a better term, famous, and coming out and starting to talk about it and showing you that they are suffering from it. Because before, it was just something like, yeah, that's not a real thing, and especially us in the Black community, we never really looked at mental health. Like, you tell somebody you got some mental health issues, they just tell you, go to church and pray about it. But if I go to a doctor and get diagnosed with diabetes, nobody told me to pray that away. So I think
also that as an athlete, you are trained and taught to be strong.
Exactly.
Strength is your superpower. So, when you talk about mental illness or mental health issues or stress or any of that, it simply puts a sign of weakness. It tags a sign of weakness to that. So when your superpower is to be strength and to be strong because you're an athlete, and that's a little different than everyday people just walking around. Mental health is mental health. But for athletes, their whole being, their whole presence is all about strength. And so you tag mental illness or mental health issues onto that, it shows a sign of weakness. And I think that is why a lot of people do not talk about it or did not talk about it.
You're right. You're absolutely right. But like you said, to your question, what's changed? And I think what's changed is you are starting to have some of those really strong athletes. I mean, you think about a, 250-pound, offensive lineman coming out talking about, struggling with anxiety so bad, being elite in your field and having anxiety so bad that there's a game you can't play because you are physically ill. And so I think that's what's changed, that you are starting to have some of these athletes come out and talk about, listen, this is just as debilitating as if I couldn't play because I got the flu. It's just as debilitating. And so I think that's one of the things that's changed.
I was reading a story about a shot putter who, she was in college, and that's the other thing about a lot of these athletes that go to the Olympics, because they're actual college students and they're training as a part of the Olympics. And she talked about her story, and she said how she had X amount of weeks of training to make the team. And then the minute she came back, she was dropped right back into classes. She had to catch up with studying. She had to catch up. And the pressure became so bad that she said one morning she woke up and she was just ready to just drive off the bridge. And something told her to call the school therapist, who she had a great relationship with. And that's what she did. And she called the school therapist, the university therapist, the therapist on campus. But there's so much pressure with trying out for the Olympics that it's insane. Now, I do think that in the Simone Biles case, I think it's twofold. I think one is that when you are the greatest of all time in a sport like gymnastics, it is a lot of pressure by itself. When you're the greatest of all time, it's a lot of pressure, period.
Right.
However, I also think that when you don't feel 100% and people
Are they having a fire drill?
I don't know. It's a test. Yeah, we gotta go. Oh my God, I gotta go outside. So you're gonna walk with me.
See, this is what happens when it's live.
Okay. All right, cool.
If not, I'll come and grab it.
All right, thank you. This way, this way. All right, hold that thought, Val. I'm walking.
I'm glad it's not just me that this crazy stuff happened. Okay, yeah. My phone rang, but there you go. You had a fire drill. So,
Exactly. I'm having a fire drill in the building. This way. Yes. Oh my God, did we go to the wrong door?
No, that's the way out, but I don't know if you're going to what.
it says exit, but
Yes.
I don't know.
Stairs. All right, Val. I'm going to have to cut this short real quick and we'll get back on in a minute.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.